What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video we are bringing back the 95 Corolla wagon again. Finally, after, I don't know, almost 2 years of it not being on the channel. Yep, it still exists and it's daily driven still. And it's finally time to replace the alternator. Well, just listen to it for yourself. As you heard, it didn't sound that great. The bearings in it are going bad. This one is not the original alternator. It's been replaced about 100-ish thousand miles ago. I want to say just over 100,000 miles ago. It is an OEM alternator, as you can see, but it's old, it's done its job, and it's time for a new one. I did not buy an OEM one. I probably should have, but you know, I took my chances with an aftermarket one. We'll see how long it lasts. Anyway, this is a very easy job, so let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to do is unplug the alternator. You should disconnect the battery, and if you want to, go ahead. This is a live positive wire, so if it touches the chassis anywhere, boom, it'll blow the fuse, make some sparks. Stuff isn't going to be pretty. So I'm going to tell you disconnect your battery, but I don't want to lose all my radio settings, so I will not disconnect my battery. But what I'm going to do is, as soon as I take this off, I'm going to put the little boot back on, and I'm going to wrap this with something so that it cannot possibly make any connection at all. So keep in mind, this is now a live wire with positive current going through it that can go basically anywhere. I unclipped the harness from down there, so if it touches this exhaust, it's going to blow my alternator fuse, make some sparks. It's not going to be pretty. So I'm going to wrap it with something. Hang on a second. Okay, so again, you should disconnect your battery. Okay, negative terminal should be coming off. Do as I say, not as I do. Now, at the top of the alternator, you'll see this big 14mm bolt. That has to get loosened up and eventually removed, but for now, just loosen it up. This one is pretty tight on here. There we go. Okay, it's got a nut on the other side that has this tab to lock it on, so you don't have to worry about holding it. All right, loosen this up, and now we have to unlock the pivot point. Okay, now this is really difficult to see, even in person, not just on camera, but this bolt right here is what locks on the adjuster, and then this one is what makes the adjuster go up and down. So what I want to do is, with a 12mm, loosen this bolt up. Sometimes these are pretty tight. And this is not the first time that I'm doing this, so my bolt is not as tight as it was the first time, but I remember a few years ago when I filmed the belt replacement video on this car, which by the way I can link down in the description if you're interested in replacing all of your drive belts. When I filmed that video, this bolt was really, really tough to get off. But now that that's broken free, you want to come here to this bolt, also a 12mm, loosen up on this one. What this is going to do is it's going to make the alternator go down and take tension off of the belt, so you can take that belt off of the alternator. Okay, at this point, if you've loosened it up enough, you can slip the belt off. Now the bolt that locks in the tensioner, you're gonna have to remove that completely, take it out, because it goes through a little arm in the alternator. So that's what I'm removing right now. This is it, take that out, and remove this one completely, and then the alternator will be ready to come out. Okay, take this bolt out. Oh, looks like it doesn't want to come out all the way. Okay, so this bolt doesn't want to come out all the way because it's hitting the washer tank, so I'm just going to unbolt the washer tank and move it out of the way. There's a 10mm bolt right here on the corner of it. Take that out. that right there. That's how you lose bolts, because it makes you think that it's part of this. Now you pull the washer tank forward to unhook it from right here, and you can lift it up and out of your way. It doesn't need to go far, just a little bit out of the way is good. Okay, so I'm holding the harness out of the way. Right down there where my other hand is, the oil pressure sensor is gonna have to get disconnected. Now you can remove this bolt completely. Keep in mind this wiring harness still has a little connector underneath and it's clipped onto the alternator, so we'll have to remove that as well. Okay, once this has come off, you can flip it over, disconnect this connector here, or the retainer I guess, which is what holds that oil pressure sensor connector. You can use a little screwdriver or whatever you have, a pick, but pry up on this little tab, wiggle this, and the connector should come off. And now you can remove the old alternator. Now is the perfect time to completely remove this bolt, or at least spray it down with some rust penetrant so that it can be lubricated, and if you need to clean it, then definitely completely remove it. I'm gonna grab some rust penetrant, spray this whole thing down, that way it's lubricated and it can work properly. You can also put anti-seize on it if you'd like. So what you're gonna have to do now is transfer these two brackets onto your new alternator, otherwise your wiring is gonna have nothing to attach to. So I'll take this off. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside safely. Take off the other one as well. To get to this one, you might have to bend the outer casing a little bit out of your way. Now this is ready for recycling. And keep in mind there is usually a core on alternators, so wherever you bought it from will expect the old one back for however much money they charge for the core. Okay, now get the new one and remove the two bolts, or the two nuts I should say. Slide the bracket on, make sure it's going in the same direction. Okay, don't go crazy tight on these because they're very small studs. And the other one. Alright, now that these two are installed, let's get the alternator in. Bring it down, and I'm going to attach the bottom of this wiring harness to its retainer. Clip it on. Now line it up at the top here and put the bolt through. It's going to fit a lot easier than taking it off, because this right here is actually a bushing that slides in and out. From the factory it comes slid out all the way. It'll be easy to mount it. I'm just going to start this nut, that way it's secured on there. Alright, I'll leave it like that for now. The next thing I want to do is reinstall my wire here. This is going to allow me to not worry anymore about it. Again, please disconnect your battery if you don't have anything fancy going on with your radio. I have an aftermarket radio in, and all of my settings are customized, so didn't really feel like doing them all over again. This stud is brass, so be very gentle when you tighten it. It easily breaks, so just go snug and then stop. And don't forget to put this boot on. Reconnect the side connector here. Make sure that clicks, and snap in the wiring harness up front here. Okay, that's snapped in. I know you can't see it. I couldn't really see it either. Now take the alternator and try to slide in the locking bolt. This is going to be a little tricky because you have to line up the adjuster with the alternator and everything and the bolt. So I find it easiest if you just pull the adjuster all the way out. I'm going to start this bolt into the alternator. Make sure your threads are facing the right way. And now I'm gonna try to line it up. There we go. As soon as I felt it snap into place, line it, or start it in. This is probably the most difficult part of this job, honestly, because you can't see anything down there. That's close to being bottomed out, so I'm gonna leave it like that. Now take the belt, slide it all the way down. I'm gonna actually put it on the water pump pulley first before anything else, which is straight back that way. And I guess you don't have to take the belt all the way off, you can just let it hang, but I find it easier to take it all the way off, that way it's out of your way. Before it goes on the alternator, make sure it's on the harmonic balancer. Oh, and there we go. It just all fell into place. Make sure it's on the right ribs everywhere. If it's a tooth off, if it's sitting like that, it's literally going to shred itself to pieces the second you turn on the car, so just double check it. All right, let's tighten it up. Just take the adjuster bolt and tighten, and that's gonna pull the alternator up. All right, now this is pretty tight, and to check the tension on this, because this is a manual tensioning belt, you take the belt on its longest stretch, so it's going to be between the alternator and the water pump. That's the longest stretch. Right in the middle, twist it. If it easily twists 90 degrees, so like right now it looks like I got it just perfect, it needs to easily twist 90 degrees. If you can only twist it like 45, 50 degrees and then it's tight, that's way too tight. So you need to loosen up the alternator. If it goes past 90, then it's too loose, so you need to keep tightening. So I'm actually going to loosen it just a smidge. Kind of like, oh, see, that's too loose. It wants to spin past 90 easily. So I'm gonna go one more turn tight. It's a game of trial and error here, but it's very important that you get it right, because you'll ruin your alternator bearings if it's too tight. And you'll, you know, stretch the belt, wear the belt out prematurely. Okay, so that feels perfect for me right there. I can easily turn it 90 degrees. Past, it takes extra force, so I'm gonna leave it like this. If for some reason it's too loose and it squeals, I'll fix it, but this is perfect. Now let's snug up this top bolt here, then I'll go down and lock in the adjuster. So this one, when you tighten it, you'll notice that this bushing on the alternator is gonna pull itself in. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, now that's bottomed out. Make sure it's nice and snug. I'm gonna snug up the tensioner as well. Now I'm gonna tighten up my tensioner locking bolt so that it doesn't accidentally back off by itself. All right, that's nice and snug right there. It's important to tighten that, because otherwise, I know it's unlikely, but the alternator could lose tension by itself from vibrations. All right, now let's put the washer tank back in. There's a tab underneath that needs to line up with the rubber grommet there. You can see it, and then line it up with that tab there. Start your bolt back in. Just gonna spray it with some rust penetrant. There we go. That goes in a lot better. Nice and snug. Cool. Okay, so the job is done. It was super easy. All we used was a 12, a 14, and a 10 wrench or socket and ratchet, whatever you have, but very easy to do. Now that everything is connected, bolted up, let's start the car and make sure that we got rid of that horrible noise. That is awesome. No more squeaking, no more squealing, no more annoying noise. And I was about to close the hood with my flashlight in there. Anyway, job is done. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. The Corolla is finally back on the channel. I have a few more things coming for it, which you should probably stay tuned for. An AC tensioner pulley, which is that pulley right there. I have a distributor cap and rotor for it, and some spark plugs. And I know I already made a spark plug video, but I want to remake one and explain some things. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful, and if you feel like it, go ahead and share it. Stay tuned for more. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.